gentlelady from Texas.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me express my appreciation to Chairman Upton and Ranking Member Pallone and the Rules Committee for allowing this amendment to come to the floor. Let me thank the Chairman, Chairman Sessions, and Ranking Member Slaughter of the Rules Committee as well. As I begin, let me acknowledge that I think we have a collective commitment and need to continue to assess the electric grid. According to a Department of Energy report on the economic benefits of increasing electric grid resilience, the electrical grid in the state of Texas is highly vulnerable to severe weather, cyber attacks, vandalism, and terrorism. But, Mr. Chairman, Texas is only an example. And I hold in my hand a letter from the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs and Military Installations that has come to my attention, and the House Committee on Defense and Veterans Affairs, to take note of the vulnerability. I use this letter from the state to only say that other states are in the same category. That is why the Jackson Amendment is very relevant, because it requires a report to be promulgated on our nation's preparedness for challenges in energy as pertains to cyber attacks, vandalism, terrorism, and severe weather. I sit on the Homeland Security Committee, the Cybersecurity Subcommittee, and we see every day vulnerabilities to the cybersecurity or the infrastructure. The importance of this amendment was underscored, as I indicated, in a letter that I received. My amendment offers the option of the utilization of geothermal power in addition to other renewable strategies to address some of the energy insecurities faced by this nation. In today's world of natural and man-made disasters in the energy sector, seeking and implementing complementary alternative measures, such as that proposed in my amendment, will help address some of the insecurity issues triggered by these disasters. The natural disasters suffered in many of our home states, whether it is tornadoes or hurricanes. We know that the grid is an important survival asset for the nation. According to the DOE report, the average yearly cost of power outages from severe weather in the U.S. is between $18 to $33 billion. Cold weather in a number of states caused a level 2 emergency that knocked out 9,355 megawatts. These events warn us that key infrastructure facilities along the Gulf Coast and many other places continue to stress our grid. Thus, this amendment seeks to facilitate the United States' exploration of possibilities, strategies, and utility of promoting energy infrastructures. I would ask my colleagues to join me in ensuring through this report that we're in front of it, if we can be, to strengthen our electric grid, to look for alternatives, to be ahead of cybersecurity attacks, vandalism, and weather conditions, and ensure to the American public that they do have a resilient system that will last during times of great disaster. With that, I reserve, and I ask my colleagues to support the amendment.
Gentlelady's time is reserved. For what purpose does the gentleman from Michigan seek recognition?
I would seek the time in opposition.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
And I support the amendment. I supported the amendment before it was revised. I support the amendment as revised. This amendment directs the Secretary of Energy to submit to the House and Senate Energy Committees a report on methods to increase electric grid resilience with respect to all threats, including cyber attacks, vandalism, terrorism, severe weather, and actually, as amended, it requires it to submit to the House or to the Congress versus the specific committees. But I think it's a fine amendment. We support it, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Goes back his time. Gentlelady from Texas.
Yield.
I'd be happy to yield to the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Pallone.
Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to also lend my support to the legislation on grid resiliency. I think it's very important, and appreciate the gentlewoman's putting it forward. I yield back.
Gentlelady from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the appropriate time, I'd like to add into the record this letter from the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs and Military Installations of the State of Texas and the House Committee on Defense and Veterans Affairs.
That request is covered by general leave.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, let me conclude by simply saying I thank both Mr. Upton and Mr. Pallone for their yielding and joining in the unanimous consent to revise the amendment simply to say that this report on increasing methods to increase electric grid resilience with respect to all threats, including cyber attacks, vandalism, terrorism, severe weather, the report would go to the Congress. And I thank them very much. With that, I ask my colleagues to support the Jackson Lee amendment and yield back.
The question is on the amendment as modified, offered by the gentlelady from Texas. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment, as modified, is agreed to.